The IRS is building its own online tax filing system. Tax prep companies aren't happy. They've been talking about doing this for years, but it seems like now it's really gaining momentum. It's really gaining steam. I don't know how I feel about this one. I have multiple concerns coming from this, and I'm not sure. I'm not really sure why or how they need to do this, but let's just jump in. We'll read it and we'll kind of discuss it here. This is a very interesting article, and I'm sure we're going to get a lot of healthy discussion coming from this. So, the IRS is developing a system that would let taxpayers send electronic returns directly to the government for free, sidestepping commercial options such as TurboTax. The agency plans a pilot test of the program next year. Many other countries already offer taxpayers a government-run filing system, but the IRS plan is likely to face stiff opposition from the $14 billion tax preparation industry. A direct IRS e-file system is wholly redundant and is nothing more than a solution in search of a problem, said Rick Heineman, a spokesman for Intuit, the company behind TurboTax. That solution will unnecessarily cost taxpayers billions of dollars and especially harm the most vulnerable Americans. Americans already spend significant time and money prepping their taxes. The average individual filer pays $140 per year, according to the IRS. And I will tell you, if you use a CPA or you use a service such as one of those services you see in your local Walmart, or one of those, services that are offered through financial institutions. It's somewhere around there, if not even more, especially for the CPA. While an alliance of industry players offers a free filing option through the IRS website, only about 2% of taxpayers use it. And they have a comment here: that's because the tax prep companies sabotaged the program so they could keep raking in money, Senator Elizabeth Warren said last month. Last year, TurboTax paid $141 million to settle a complaint that it advertised free tax preparation, then steered customers into costly upgrades. The company did not admit to any wrongdoing. So there's a lot to be said here. I mean, obviously, this article's pinning it as companies like TurboTax are the ones behind why this is not working. And why it has taken so long to gain steam. The thing that I'm very iffy about is, since when does the government create anything that goes smoothly or works perfectly? That's where I'm a little iffy or nervous about. I don't understand how all of a sudden we're going to trust the government to create a IRS online tax filing site. And listen, I have a bias, and the reason why I have a bias is because I still suffer from a little bit of PTSD from when they rolled out the Affordable Care Act. Back when they first rolled out the Affordable Care Act, I was a broker at the time, a health insurance broker during that time, and I had to take part in offering plans and products through the health marketplace, and having people apply for tax credits and the whole nine. I had to do the whole thing, and I was involved from day one, year one, when they rolled out the Affordable Care Act system, and they rolled out the whole system and websites. And some states had the state-run websites, some states were using the federal-run websites, and and I'm gonna tell you, it was a hot mess. Whether you like it or you hate it, whether you love it or hate it, I have to tell you, it was a hot mess. There was so much stress that year. So many things went wrong on that site. So many people got. Just to be honest with you, so many people got screwed. So many people really got hurt on that site. It took months. I had clients, and I am not exaggerating, I had clients that took up to 6 months to fix stuff that went wrong on that site. And so for 6 months, they were wondering if they even had health insurance. They were wondering if their health insurance product was even working. And the health insurance company was just telling them to send them the premium bill every month of what the website told them the cost was. And even though the companies, their auto mailing systems were sending them out letters saying their health insurance plan was canceled, was threat of being canceled for not paying as much, saying they owe more. All this stuff was going on. It was just a hot mess. The website didn't work. The website would crash. it wasn't, and then there was extremely complex situations that arose during that time, where the website was not fully prepared to handle it. And neither was their system. People that had very complex tax situations. And so it's like you're not a tax expert, but then you have to kind of become one in a way, because now you're dealing with people who are talking about what's your gross income at the end of the year, and what's your net income at the end of the year, and all this stuff. And you had to figure out like where they fall in line with that tax credit plan. And then there was many of my clients, and even some of my colleagues, some of the people that were in the industry across the board, some of their clients at the end of the year, it was like no one understood how to do it. No one not even, and you couldn't call anyone. None of the government workers, nobody. There was nobody that understood. You'd get a different answer every time. I'm not exaggerating. You'd call their phone line. They had a special helpline for brokers that you could call and talk to an expert that represented the government that could help talk you through and walk you through stuff. And I swear to Almighty God, you'd get a different answer every time. You call in, and and the guy would, or girl would, walk you through whatever you're doing. They would tell you to do X, Y, Z, and you call back right after. You'd hang up the phone, pick up the phone again, call the line again, get a different rep, and they would tell you to do something completely different. And no one could say, and you would tell them that, hey, the last person, they said, no, the last person was wrong. I know exactly how to do it. This is how you do it. And then you call a different one, you get a different opinion. It was insane. And as a result of that, there were a lot of clients that at the end of the year owed the government like $10,000, $12,000, $6,000, $8,000, because it said that their tax credit advancement was miscalculated and calculated wrong. And so you had all these people who were not tax experts. They're not CPAs. They're not licensed to do it. And they all of a sudden had to calculate taxes, a form of taxes, to figure out what net and gross income was. And a lot of people would say, well, that's a simple thing to figure out. It's not. It's not a simple thing to figure out. That's why there's a $14 billion industry around it. Do you understand? So there's a whole thing to talk about when you talk about stuff like this. And I think I wanted to go over this article because as I was reading it, I felt my heart palpitations going up and a little bit of sweat on top of my brow, remembering what it was like when that Affordable Care Act system came out. It just is crazy. So anyways, taxpayers will still have choices on how to file. IRS Commissioner Danny Werfel stressed that filing returns directly with the government will be strictly optional. Taxpayers will always have choices for how they file their taxes, Werfel told reporters during a conference call Tuesday. They can use tax software, they can use a trusted tax professional, they can use a paper tax return. We'd rather they file electronically, sure, but they have that choice. Many Democrats have long favored a direct filing option. Legislation passed last year gave the IRS $15 million to study the idea. They're committed to the proposition that it shouldn't cost hundreds of dollars and many more hours of time simply to follow the law, Senate Finance Committee Chairman Ron Wyden said during a hearing last month. When it comes to filing taxes online, the status quo is unacceptable. Look, should it cost hundreds of dollars for many more hours of time to simply to follow the law? I can get behind that statement. I really can. I understand. It's like, yes, I can understand that position. You are forcing people to have to do something every year, and no matter how they do it, it's going to cost them money. If that's the way you feel about it, we should really talk about that Affordable Care Act program. Just kidding. I'm totally joking. It's just, as long as you have your other options. I mean, because I'm going to be straight with you guys. Like, as much as I like the idea of not having to pay, I do not trust them to create a good site. There is no way. I've never seen the government roll out anything, and I am so scarred from that Affordable Care Act. And in the following years, it wasn't just the first year. It was years and years and years and years after trying to use that system, and the amount of just havoc it was. And knowing, I would have upwards of 100 to 200 people going through trying to enroll through me, because you'd have people calling. I mean, they were trying to call the website directly, and then they wouldn't work because their phone lines would get so backed up. You'd have 2 to 3 hour wait times. And I'm not exaggerating. It was bad. And so then they would start just calling local brokers. So, obviously we could pick up whenever we had the chance. So it was like during that time, my phone would just be ringing off the hook. I'd be on the phone with someone, I'd hang up, the phone would start ringing again. It was like I worked at a call center. Over the course of the couple years, that aspect of it did slow down a little bit. I will tell you that aspect did slow down, the heavy traffic flow. But for those first couple years, like 3 or 4 years into it, the traffic flow was crazy. And so, I say all that to say this, that the website never worked. Like, it never fully functioned properly. I think they've got the system down now, and it might be a little bit better, but I'm not in that industry anymore, so I couldn't tell you. But it was every year I would be enrolling 200 people, and out of 200 people, I'd have like 20 tickets. And for issues that went wrong with the website. Stuff went wrong, their filing went wrong, the whole thing, and those things would take 2, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months after the enrollment period was over to fix, because they didn't have the time or the manpower to fix it during, because you had such an onslaught of people trying to enroll in a short amount of time. So there's just so many things we could have done better. We could extend the enrollment period. They kept having to extend the enrollment period anyways, because there wasn't enough time for people to get in. So they would extend it. Like, we'd get notifications that they'd extend it another 2 weeks or to a month. And so it was like, why don't we just make the enrollment period longer? Why do we have to keep doing this? So it was crazy. But that aspect of it did die down after a while. But through surveys, the IRS found significant interest in a government-run filing system, but also challenges. One survey found 72% of taxpayers would be very interested or somewhat interested in a system that allowed them to file returns directly with the government at no cost. Yeah, you'd want to make sure you add into that thing a system that worked with no bugs. Then they'd be interested. But the option was most popular with younger people, those with limited English skills, and people who do their own taxes. If the government is requiring me to file, they should offer a free service, one survey respondent said. And so, there you have it. There's people that will use it. There's people that will trust it to use it. And there's also people with very simple tax situations that could probably use that very easily. But the people with complex tax situations oftentimes can't even use TurboTax. TurboTax isn't even an option if you have a complex situation going on. There's been many years where I didn't even have the option to use TurboTax, because I had to go to a CPA just because of the way of our tax situation was set up, and different various streams of income that were coming in, and how they affected that whole situation. It was a very complicated thing. And if you've sold homes in 1 year, and you're moving it from one home to the other, all that kind of stuff adds complexity to the situation. And so would this IRS system be able to handle that? Not even TurboTax can handle that stuff. So I don't think it's really going to help that as many people as they think, and it's not like for billionaires who are selling multiple homes. Like, if you sold one home over the year, oftentimes that adds complexity to the whole situation, and it adds enough complexity to where you'd rather just go to a professional and have them help you. And sometimes I've even seen people's situation where they couldn't even go to like a simple, one of the I don't even know what they're calling, but Jones or Edward Jones or whatever. The guys you see in the front of the Walmart, sometimes you can't even go to one of them. You have to go to an actual CPA to get the help that you need. Concerns remain about filing. Other participants were concerned, however, that the tax collector might not provide them with the largest refund or the smallest tax bill. This is very true. A potential conflict that's been highlighted by commercial tax preparers. The IRS estimates that setting up and operating a direct file system would cost the government between $64 million and $240 million annually, depending on the number of users and the complexity of returns it could handle. One challenge is how to integrate state tax returns, which would make a IRS-run system more attractive. The system could also be a stepping stone to having the IRS file in parts of a tax return itself, using information from employers and other sources. The next step in the process is to let some real taxpayers try using the system next year. The best way to be successful is to begin with a limited scope pilot that allows the IRS to test functionality for some taxpayers, evaluate success, and use lessons learned to inform the growth of the tool. Deputy Treasurer Secretary Wally, I'm not even going to try, wrote in a letter authorizing the test. I really wish they would have done that with the Affordable Care Act. I'm sorry, I keep going back to it, but it's just something I was like, as I'm reading this, that's all I'm thinking about. I'm sorry. I just wish they would have done that. You can tell I'm a little scarred. I told you, I warned you I was biased. Like, I was biased. I went through that situation, but yeah, I wish they would have tested. I wish they would have tested it more. The scale of the experiment and the kinds of taxpayers who will be eligible is yet to be determined. Yeah, there's no way year one they're going to be able to roll out with all the benefits and functionality to the level that someone like TurboTax has. And I'll be honest with you guys, I will never use that service. I will always use like TurboTax or someone else. I will not use a free IRS run service. Just number one, because I don't trust it. I've been through too much. I've seen how they roll out government programs. I've seen what happens when they mess up, and the hurt and the pain it causes to people on behalf of their mistake. But the people still have to pay for it. I've seen that multiple times, and I'm not interested. And I've seen that all the way down, because because of that whole situation, I helped people that were on food stamps and Medicaid. Like, I've helped people that had very, very bad financial situations. And in all of those situations, when the program makes a mistake, when the program miscalculates, the person always has to pay it back, which I don't think is very fair. So, I will probably never use this program. I will never use this software, because I won't be able to ever trust it, and I highly, highly doubt that they're going to be able to tackle all of the complexities that come with people using their program or their software. I've never heard of government creating anything that runs smoothly, and so it's just something that I will never touch. I won't ever use it. I wouldn't suggest to any of my friends or my family or people that I know to ever use it. I would always say, hey, just go to TurboTax and use that, because I use TurboTax, and it's very easy. It's very smooth. It works really well. And so I just don't see the need for this. I don't understand what the problem is here, outside of if someone is very advocately saying like they don't want to pay the $140 a year, instead of the government creating this whole tax filing system to make it such an expensive thing. If they're really serious about people not having to pay for this, why doesn't someone step up and say, hey, instead of this, let's create a tax program where the government will pay the fees for TurboTax to do your tax prep? Why don't we do it that way, where you can actually, at the end of the year, your tax return, you can tack on whatever the fee was for TurboTax to file. So that way it's covered, and that way you actually don't wind up paying it. Maybe you pay it up front and then you get it on the back end, you get it on a return. And I bet you my golden dollar that doing a program like that for certain people and who would be eligible for something like that would cost way less than what they're projecting to run this website. $64 million and $249 million annually. I bet you it would cost way less to do something like that, and you'd have a certain person within an income bracket, a certain person within a certain threshold. I don't know what the things would be. I'm coming up with this off the top of my head, but because you're not even, and you might be saying, well, Peter, that's going to cost way more than $249 million. Yeah, but what they're not calculating in is the people you'd have to pay in staff in order to run that website, and then you got to have programmers and coders, and you have to have all these people on staff to run that thing. And I'm telling you, after going through the marketplace stuff when I did it, and even I spent some time actually working for the state. For a state that had its own. And so I saw some other internal stuff going on in that situation, because during a time they had the brokers come in and act as liaisons for the state itself. And so we were in the call centers and acting as advanced situations, where when they would have someone call in and they had like cancer and they had multiple health problems going on, they would forward someone like that had that really needed some legit guidance to a broker in the call center to help them get enrolled. And so we were involved in the meetings, and we were involved in all the situations that were going on with that. And I'm telling you, doing a simple system where instead of creating this elaborate website and making it a big deal, well, people should, if you're gonna force someone to do something, you shouldn't have to pay for it, and having this whole like principle behind it. Then why don't you just turn around and say, okay, well, if you really feel that way, then create an income bracket or create some sort of program that allows for the fee to be covered, instead of creating a whole website and a whole department and spending all this money to do something that you know is going to be crap at the end of the day. It's not going to work. It's not going to run smoothly, and it requires people who are experts. It requires people who are high level and able to create and manage and enhance such a software and such a service. And those people are very intelligent. They get paid a lot of money, and they work for companies that can pay them a lot of money, and they're not going to work for a government that can't pay them a lot of money. There's no way the government's going to be able to pay them the kind of money that they're making working for these other companies and offer all the benefits at the same time. It's just not going to happen. I mean, that's what we found in the state that I was in as a broker. Like, just the people that were very, very versed in the skills set that they needed. It happened to also be an area that was very tech savvy, and we couldn't recruit people fast enough. And even the attraction model wasn't there. A lot of people were like, I'm not going to go work for them. I'd rather go work for a, cool tech startup. So, there's just so many things about it, but I'm ranting. I mean, you guys tell me what you think in the comment section below. And look, I'm not trying to step on anyone's toes. I can totally understand the sentiment, like, hey, if you're going to force me to do this, I shouldn't have to pay for it. I totally understand that. I'm not trying to argue with that at all. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. It helps. I just thought this was really interesting. I was really excited to go over it with you guys and really share my thoughts on it and see what your thoughts are on it as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate all the growth we're seeing. I'm really excited for the future of this channel, and I'm going to keep working at it. So, all right, guys, I will catch you guys in the next one.